Hello, second grade teachers. So glad you're here. I'm Dee Dee Wills, and I'm going to walk you through these units. Please ignore the sleeping dog behind me. I have two of them, and sleeping is their superpowers, but you'll see them in and out of these videos. I can't keep them away. But let's go ahead and get started. First unit is I have a story to tell. So let's just kind of walk through what this first unit's going to feel like for you in your classroom. And I'm going to kind of walk through where to find things within the unit. So let's go ahead and get started. So this is the welcome letter. It's going to give you kind of an overview. There's one for every unit of what that unit's about. Really, that first unit is about setting expectations and setting it up for success for you and for your students. So let's talk a little bit about what these units are going to be about. So we're going to talk about student choice. That's the first thing that we're going to talk about. This is going to be a challenge for some of your students if they haven't spent a lot of time making their own choices about what they're going to write about. So during the lessons that we're doing, we're going to be asking students to come up with their own topics, what they're going to write about. And so that's going to be challenging for students, especially if they're used to having somebody tell them what they're going to write about. The reason why we do this is when we don't want to do for students something they're capable of doing on their own. We don't want to do that. We also want to make sure by having them select their own topic, it gives them more energy to write about what they want to write about. I don't know about you, but I can write about something that I'm really excited about a lot longer and a lot stronger than something that I'm a little less excited about. So we want to get students excited about what they're going to write about, engaged with what they're going to write about. So we'll have many lessons on where writers get ideas. That's going to be an ongoing process throughout the year. At the beginning of the year, it's going to feel a little hard. And you might even have some students tell me what to write about. So we want to make sure that we don't do for them something they could do for themselves. Just assure they're going to be fine, and we're going to be working on coming up with their own topics. That's part of our mini lessons. The other thing we want to make sure is that we're frequently writing. If you're anything like me, I did not like teaching writing when I first became a teacher. And so I would do virtually anything other than doing writing lessons because I just felt really uncomfortable with it. And so I might do writing once or twice a week. Really, we want to do writing every single day. And after you look through these lessons, you're going to feel a little more empowered to do that. So hopefully you're going to start to find this being one of your favorite parts of the day. So we're going to be trying to write every single day. Now, depending on your schedule, that may not be possible for you to chunk out 20, 30 minutes a day for students to write on their own. So maybe your lessons are, you'll do your mini lessons. Students may only write for 10 minutes on some days, longer on others. But please try to make those writing lessons frequent so that they're in the mindset of writing every day. I have to tell you that in my own classroom, after we got started, if we skipped writing time, my students would be like, well, can I stay at recess time to write? That's how much we loved this part of the day. I know it might be hard for you to believe that, but I'm not lying. I'm telling you, this really is the truth. So we want to make sure that it's a routine that they look forward to doing on an every single day basis. We also want to make sure that we're learning writing from each other. So students are going to be sharing with each other. That's part of a daily process, and we'll talk about that. But we're also going to be learning from other authors and also from you. We're also going to be setting our expectations high. You may have some students in your classroom who maybe English is a new language for them, right? Or maybe they have a learning issue that makes it hard for them to do the transcription part. One thing that we know is that stories can also be told through pictures. And so I want to lean into that. So if you have a student who is still striving to be a writer, we want to let them know they can tell the story with pictures. If English is not a story, it's not a language that they are able to transcribe yet, or they don't even speak English yet, they can still tell a story through words. So make sure that we know that story writing isn't just about the words, it's also about the pictures. Words are important, but pictures are as well. We want to have them see themselves as a writer wherever they are academically, okay? So it can also be through illustrations. And we want to set our expectations high. So we want to, our expectations that everybody is working on a daily basis. The other thing is we want to accept those approximation, which is what I was saying before, is that students may be telling their story through illustrations. Okay, let's go through the routines. So the routines are as follows. Now, this first unit overview that I'm going to give you is a little bit longer than the rest. So we'll get faster and faster as we go on into those each unit, but hopefully this gives you some information so you're ready to rock and roll. Okay, so the mini lesson, that's between 10 minutes, 5 to 10 minutes. At the beginning of the year, it might be a little bit shorter, but you want to keep your mini lessons short. We want to make sure that we're not teaching all the things. I get into a bad habit of trying to do everything at once. We want to make sure that we're really focused, and the mini lessons are laid out for you so that you can be focused, all right? So resist the urge to do all the things. Mini lessons are 10 minutes long at tops. At the beginning of the year, you may want to have a mini lesson 5 minutes long. One thing that I highly recommend is get your phone out and set a timer and see how long your mini lessons are. There is a video of me teaching a mini lesson to my kindergarten class at the very beginning of the year, and I swear that mini lesson was like 4 minutes long. And when I went back to look at it, it was over 8 minutes long. And no wonder my students were kind of rolling around on the carpet a little bit, right? So for us, it goes like this, but for students, of course, it goes a little longer. If you're very brave, set up your phone and film yourself. You're going to see a lot of things that you do that you can improve upon over time. So watch the video, delete it, move on, right? It's a great way for you to teach yourself to move forward. If you're very brave, share it with a teammate and see if they can help find some ways. One, you'll learn from each other. And two, I think you'll be a better teacher of writing as a result. Okay. Status of the class is something that is phased out over time. The way that this works is we want to make sure before students leave the carpet, they're very clear what they're going to write about. So I kept all of the writing folders with me. So when we were finished with writing, the writing folders came up to me. Talk a little bit about that in that conferring folder, the conferring video. Make sure that you watch that. All of the writing folders come to me. So when I'm done with my mini lesson, before I send students off, I have all of their folders, and then I ask them, are you ready to get started? So I might say, Harriet, my dog's name, Harriet, are you ready to get started? What are you going to write about, Harriet? She says, I'm going to write about when I went to the park, or I'm going to write about, great. You hand the folder, you handing out the folder, students are telling you what they're going to be writing about. If you come to a student and they're not clear what they're going to write about, just hold on to their folder. Say, don't worry. Listen to your friends. They might give you an idea, and keep moving. Now you're ready. And then when that student raises their hand, what are you going to write about? Off you go. So very simple way to make sure that when they leave the carpet, they are ready to go. The very last thing you want to have happen is for you to hand out all their folders and have them go off to their desk. And then you look over there in about 5 minutes and say, honey, what are you doing? Because they're not doing anything, or they're doing pencil Olympics on their desk. You say, honey, what are you doing? And they're well, I don't know what I'm going to write about. Because it will spread throughout your class. All of a sudden, nobody will know what you're writing about, and then you're going to be playing like you're going to feel like you're playing whack-a-mole, and you don't want to do that. So make sure they're clear before they leave the carpet what they're going to write about. That way, when they stand up, they're ready to go. It sets them up for success. And that's what status of the class is. Now, after maybe 2 months, 5, 6 weeks, you may realize you don't need to do this every day. So try to phase it out. Don't use it unless you need it. You might only need it for 5 students. You might only need it for 2 students, right? So don't keep it if you don't need it. But let's say you've phased it out, and then about 2 months later, you're noticing, you come back from Christmas break, you need it again, bring it back for a little bit, and then you can phase it out again. It is not something you need on an ongoing basis, but I highly recommend starting there versus trying to catch up later. So that's what status of the class is. That's a very quick amount of time. Writing time. At the beginning of the year, now I have 5 to 20 minutes. 5 minutes are for students who lack all writing stamina. In 2nd grade, you should at least have your timer start for about 10 minutes and work your way up to 20 minutes. You're going to see in the anchor chart download, you're going to see a stamina chart. And so just go ahead and chart your stamina with the idea that you're going to add on time every day until you get to 20 minutes. Now, if you have more time for writing, absolutely. In my classroom, I could have my students write in kindergarten, I could have them write for 45 minutes and they would be completely thrilled. Obviously, we don't have that kind of time. We have other things that we need to teach, right? So we don't do that, but we want to make sure that we have at least 20 minutes. So you're going to build up to that. Now, typically with that stamina chart, what happens is you start to add minutes. Each day you add a minute. You'll get to a point and somebody's going to say, I'm done. And you say, oh, boys and girls, it's time for us to bring everything back because so-and-so's done. We're ready to, obviously we're out of time for this particular. And students will give that child a stink eye. It usually happens once. And then after that, we work our way up to 20 minutes. In the years that I've taught, it usually is only once that we go backwards before we go forwards. But just chart what it is every single day. Sharing time. Students need to share every single day with their writing partner, okay? In the conferring video that I shared with you, you're going to have some students share in front of the class, and then you're going to have some students share, and then you'll have every student share with their partner, right? So only some students will share in front of the whole class, and then some students will share with their partner. The sharing time is really, really important, and you're going to be modeling during that time how to kind of elevate that sharing time. So mentioned it for you. So as you are having students sharing in front of the class, you're going to want to use some language that you want your students to adopt with their partner. So things like, I am noticing that, Harriet, we'll pick on my dog again. I'm noticing that Harriet did a really great job of spaces between her words because that really helps me to know where one word ends and another one begins. So as a reader, that really helps me. Or I'm noticing that she's stretching out multiple syllable words. And that's really helpful for me because now I know the word that she wants to use. I love the way Harriet made her illustration with a lot of details because now I can really see what's going on in the story, right? So always bring it back to meaning. Always bring back that modeled feedback in a way that helps elevate the meaning of the piece, right? Making it easier for us to read. And then your students will start to model or will start to share in such a way with each other as well. Let's see, what else do I want to tell you? Materials. I'm going to go back to, there's procedure check. So at the beginning of the year, you're all about procedures. How do we handle a pencil? What do we do when something is, I need to take a staple out? What do I do when I've made a mistake? All of those procedures. How do we sit at our desk quietly so that others can work as well? What do I do if I don't know how to spell a word? All of those millions of procedures. So you're going to be introducing a lot of those in the first unit. But you may notice that you're going to need to bring them back as the year goes on. It would be amazing if we taught a lesson once and your students were like, got it, learned it, and then they do it from then on. But we know that doesn't happen. We know we need to bring them back. So we're going to do each day, perhaps you're going to pick a procedure check. If you're noticing that it's very noisy during writing time, you're going to do a quick procedure check. You're going to say, friends, remember when we're writing, it needs to be very quiet. So today in your writing, I want to remember to use very quiet voices if you're talking to a partner. Boom. 1 or 2 sentences. If you're finding that you need more than 1 or 2 sentences, then that's a mini lesson, not a procedure check. And so just squeeze that in. I'll have you look at those mini lessons. You're just going to kind of add it to your schedule, and I'll show you exactly what I'm talking about in just a moment, okay? So let's keep on going. Mentor texts. These are some books that we feel really provide some great lessons that you can use. They're mentioned in the lessons as well, how to use those. Now, the way that we use a mentor text is we want to make sure that we don't read it from cover to cover during our writing time, right? Because you only have 5 to 10 minutes to do the mini lesson. So make sure you've read that at another time of the day, maybe 2 days ago, right? And then you just bring the book up and say, hey, friends, remember when we were reading this book? I want to show you something that the author did because I want to do the same thing. It's very, very quick. We don't read it cover to cover. We're just going to go back to the page where we want to show them an element of writing that we're going to try in our own writing. We're not just going to show them the picture. We're going to show them how to do it, okay? So it's not just let me tell you. It's all about showing them. And that's how we feel like our lessons are very different. Modeled writing, which leads me into the next thing, is really the next stage of moving students from lecture to let me show you. So you're going to be doing a lot of modeled writing in these units, which means you're going to be writing in front of students 3 or 4 times a week is going to be your actual writing. So you'll have to start to get comfortable with that. It's not something I was comfortable with to begin with, but I've given you lots of examples that hopefully will springboard it. If you need to use my examples and say that you went to the beach when I went to the beach, I'm fine with that. But you're going to want to make sure that you're showing students, not just telling them these qualities of writing. The other thing that we want to make sure is you're going to find in your anchor charts, there is a sentence chart there. There's a picture right there on the screen for you. You'll want to make sure that you are modeling what a correct and a complete sentence is. It's going to tell you the who or what and the did what. We want to make sure that we share students what a complete sentence sounds like, because they're not going to be able to start with a capital letter and add a punctuation if they're still writing fragments or run-on sentences. So keep an eye out for that, and you'll want to make sure in your own modeled writing that you highlight it according to that chart. Okay. The other thing I wanted to say is, as you know, we're going to ask students to do some illustrations. And oftentimes teachers will ask me, well, how long do you let them draw, and how long do you, how much do you want to have them do work on the words? And for me, the answer has changed over the years. When I first started teaching, I would set a timer and say, you can draw for X amount of minutes, and then when the timer goes off, then you can write words, and then when the timer goes off again, you can add color. And what I realized is that not all writers work that way. I had found some students who do all of their pictures first, and then they come back and do their words. Drawing the pictures is actually, especially when we get into books, is a form of a graphic organizer for them. It helps lay out their story for them. So if they draw all of their pictures first and then come back and do the words, that is completely acceptable. It should be acceptable for you. You will have some students who want to spend all of their time on illustrations and they never get to the words. Now, if that happens, then you address that, and it will go something like this. I would walk by a student's desk who I knew this is what was happening, and I would say, you know what I'm noticing is that, oh my gosh, you are telling your story so beautifully with your pictures. I can't wait to see what you're going to write for your words. So I'm going to come back in 5 minutes, and I can't wait to see what you wrote. And then I walk away, and then I come back in 5 minutes and I check on them. So that's a great way to kind of push them forward. What else do I want to tell you? You will have some students who don't have the stamina of other students. So if everybody else is writing for 20 minutes and this particular student doesn't have that stamina, then you'll want to put an intervention in place, perhaps have a timer for them that says, okay, I'm going to give you, 5 minutes to work on your picture. And then after that, 5 minutes to work on your words. And then you can go back to your picture, right? So be creative with your interventions that you might use for some students. But if you need it just for some students and not all of your students, then just do it for the students that need it, right? There's no reason for everybody to be doing it if only a few students need it. The other thing I was going to say, first month of writing is challenging. It's going to feel really like you're like, dun, 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 dun. You're like going to be all over the place. We're not really working on conferring that first month. Your goal that first month is just to be navigating around the room, getting everybody working, pretending like you're having fun, even though sometimes you're not, right? Fake it till you make it. But I do promise, after you get through those first 3 or 4 weeks of writing, it becomes easier. You just have to get through it. It's like the first couple days of a diet. You just got to do it. Okay, so let's see. What else do I want to tell you? Anchor charts. So there is a folder for anchor charts, and there's also a folder that has rubrics in there. And you will find the rubrics and the anchor chart pieces in the same folder. So rubrics and anchor charts are in each chapter. There'll be one. So go ahead and download that. And this is how I use this resource. I created an anchor chart where the header was put up there, and then the writing goes down the side. So I've kind of labeled them for you. There's the header, just do it once. I mean, unless you really, really love making charts, I don't. So just do it once. So you can do them all different colors if you want to be super fancy. I just did it once. So I put the writing goals across the top. I just glued them on there, cut them out, glued them on there. And then I ran the whole thing through our school laminator. So then now it's super sturdy and I can use it year after year after year. The writing goals are different as with each month. So I cut those apart and I just tape them on there. If you wanted to, you could do the same thing and then at the end of the month throw them away. If you would rather have something a little more permanent, then you could go ahead and print them, laminate them, and then put them on there with Velcro dots, store them for the next year, bring them out again. But set up your writing goals chart. I like to have students select their own writing goals, so each of them get a post-it note, and then they can move it along. When this unit is over, put those writing goals away, get the next unit out, put it up there. Super easy, but it's a great way for students to be accountable for their own writing. Okay, so that's the writing goals rubric. The writing goals that are listed there correspond with the rubric. So students know exactly what their expectations are for that particular unit. So the rubrics and the writing goals, kid-friendly way of students to know what to expect. Let's go on. Okay. Alphabet chart, words to know, those are available also. You'll find those in the anchor charts units. The writing continuum, I like to get a student sample at the beginning of the year before you started any instruction. First of all, it makes you look really good. Second of all, it's a great starting point. So do one at the beginning of the year. Grab a writing sample before you start writing instructions. Say, boys and girls, today I want you to write about something that you blah, 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 right? Write something that you did this summer. Write something that you enjoy doing when you get home from school. Write something that you like to do, whatever. Get a writing sample from them. You can score it on the writing continuum and then just put it in their portfolio. Mid-year, you're going to grab another writing sample. You probably may have a district writing prompt out there. If not, just think of something with your team, get another writing sample, score it. You're going to be able to see student growth over time. Okay. So usually I did 3 per year, 1 at the beginning of the year, 1 mid-year, 1 at the end of the year. Talk with your school, see what they'd like to do. Writing is slow to grow. Okay. You will see progress over time, but it's sort of like somebody said, it's sort of like watching a tree grow. You know, every day you look out, you're like, that tree hasn't grown. That tree hasn't grown, right? And then you look back at your like a Christmas picture or a picture from another, and you're like, oh my gosh, look how big that tree's gotten. So getting a sample is sort of like getting a photograph at a moment in time, and it's a great way for you to see progress over time. Also, if you have a student who's not progressing, you'll be able to also kind of notice that as well. So grab a writing sample. I've included the same continuum with every single unit of study. That's all I wanted to say about that. Okay. Unit 1. So this is an overview. It tells you what the big idea is for every single day, what the big idea is, and then there's some procedure things in there as well, right? And it's laid out day 1, day 2, day 3, day 4, day 5, all the way through to day 20. I will say that one of the hardest things about writing is that every class is different and what they need is different. So if you are noticing that you're in unit 4 and you're like, oh my gosh, my kids don't need this lesson, they need that lesson, be flexible. Take that lesson, move lessons around, I guess is what I'm trying to say. You can move lessons around. We are all there's some universal truths in what a second grade classroom looks like and a first grade classroom and a kindergarten classroom looks like, right? There's universal things that we notice, but what we need on a particular day might really dictate on what we saw the previous day. So as you progress as a writing teacher, feel comfortable with moving your lessons around. It's not supposed to be lock, stock. You can certainly move those around. However, what I noticed is that a lot of teachers aren't really comfortable with what lessons to write or what lessons to teach. So we laid them out for you. Now, if you're in the 2nd or 3rd year teaching writing, you may be like, you know what? I don't think I really need to do this lesson. I think I really need to do that lesson. So just know that it should be flexible. You are the teacher, right? So this is the curriculum. You are the artist. So you're going to make sure you move things around to match the need of your classroom. Okay, I think that's all I want to say about that. Those are your lessons. This is what the lessons look like. Let me see if I can go ahead and bring that in close so you can look at it. So you'll have the mini lesson there. And we're going to invite students to check it out or try it out. Then you're going to have a procedure check. So this is where we're going to be talking about things that writers need. They need a quiet place. And then you're going to have sharing time. Now, during that first month, you're just going to select 2 or 3 students. Once you get into a conferring schedule, then you will have a schedule of who's going to be sharing in front of the whole class, okay? And then you'll see some modeled writing and then the anchor charts. So those anchor charts are all in one folder. You'll find those right at the beginning of the introduction. So you'll find all of those anchor charts there for you, and same with the writing paper. And hopefully my examples give you an idea of how to teach that. You do not have to use my examples, but it'll give you an idea of the depth and breadth of what we're working on. Okay, so we're going to just get them writing. How do writers come up with ideas? Let me see if there's anything else I need to share with you within this unit. Marking those sentences, want to make sure we mark those. We're talking about writing folders, writing stamina, what good listeners sound like and look like, and what they're doing with their bodies. And you can see now we're on day 6. There's lots of things in the procedural check, right? Because we are adding to our list of things that we know how to do. Yeah, I don't know that there's any big surprises here. Let me go down to our final units that we have here. The final day is usually a writing celebration. So it's during that time that students will share with each other, and I'll talk more about that really in the second module, more about sharing and moving pieces around and that sort of thing. So you have made it through your first unit, and I hope that you enjoy it.